Climate change is a hugely complex issue and how to mitigate that. But through some of these Living Labs projects, I'm seeing partnerships and relationships being formed that are going to drive ourselves forward in a way that we can address some of these issues.
Living Lab Nova Scotia is part of the Agricultural Climate Solutions Living Lab program. It aims to develop and test practices on real working farms that can help mitigate climate change through a network of living labs across Canada. Living Lab Nova Scotia is a 5-year program that brings together farmers, researchers, and industry partners to co-develop best management practices that will make our farms part of the climate change solution and more adapted to climate change. We are focusing on 4 best management practices for the Living Lab Nova Scotia. We're looking at cover crops and annual cropping systems. We're also looking at laneway management and perennial systems. We are also planting riparian and shelter belts. Our final BMP is the land swap.
So we farm 3,700 acres here in the Annapolis Valley. We're on a 4-year rotation with our carrots. So we're rotating with corn, soybeans, wheat, full season cover crops, and a range of other vegetable crops where we trade land with other farmers. And one of the things I'm most particularly interested in is how can we enhance the nitrogen cycling in the soil. So how can we embed more nitrogen in our vegetable rotation using cover crops? You know, we live in an area where there's a lot of animal manures, but that along with cover cropping, I think we've got a huge opportunity to really generate our own nitrogen and really close the cycle on nitrogen.
So in our vineyard, we're looking at the perennial cropping systems and how we can use cover cropping and increase efficiencies through use of machinery and create fertility and soil health through unique ways and new methods of cover cropping within the perennial system. I'd really like to see some best managers practices that we could make industry standards and come out with gaining some efficiencies to reduce our carbon footprint, but then also be able to create new ways to sequester carbon and create soil health and fertility within our cropping system.
We're participating in a riparian zone rehabilitation project, and what we're trying to do is take watercourses that run through some of our farms, which may have been straightened out by dredging in the 1960s, all the natural tree cover removed from them. So we're just trying to repair that. The specific project we're doing, we're planting out woody species that will provide tree cover, which will shade that brook, make it better for fish habitat, but really make it better. We really want biodiversity corridors through our farms.
In the winter, we experience some serious winter damage in this area, and the field over here that we're talking about, 2 out of 3 production cycles, typically we have lower crop volume because of winter damage on this property. And so the shelter belt idea is really important because it has the potential to create a windbreak over time and to ultimately lead to higher volume crops.
The main challenge we have in horticulture in general and our farm specifically is soil health, and the Living Lab, this particular project, allows us to set a field aside for 3 years, put it into pasture, and hopefully we'll do what we might call regenerate some soil health. On our farm, we've taken a 14-acre block of ground that has been in our traditional rotation. We've set it aside for 3 years. It's been seeded down into a hay or forage crop, and it's going to be grazed for 3 years by a neighbor's cattle.
The Living Lab Nova Scotia really highlights the way that agriculture can play a role in mitigating climate change. These practices that we're looking at will help create a thriving agriculture industry in Nova Scotia that can provide healthy and safe food for generations to come.